heard Charlie Kirk was coming to campus, I chose to debate him on this topic because it is so important to me. I was like, what is the most important thing? Easy, ranked choice voting. That's what I debated him on for that reason. Are you fucking kidding me, North Carolina? What the hell is that? I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this slide. Boy, ooh, God, my forearm's sore. Holy shit. Boys, today I have a fun one because of all the things on planet Earth. Ranked choice voting is literally one of them that I'm most passionate about. It is probably in my top 3 things that I'm most passionate about on planet Earth. And I'm going to break down why I think ranked choice voting is the solution for America. Now, in this video, I will not be covering all the different voting methods, right? I have a whole series of that on TikTok, but I will be doing another one of these where I break down every single voting method and why ranked choice voting is the best voting method. In this video, I'm just going to be talking about why our current voting method is not the answer and why something like ranked choice voting would be the solution to a lot of the problems that we have in the United States. For example, polarization, gerrymandering, corruption, and pretty much freaking everything. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that. So let's get into it. For starters, what is the biggest problem in this country? Because if you ask me, the answer is very clear, but I want you to kind of have one on your own, right? You're probably saying things that you're seeing on the screen, like gerrymandering, corruption, maybe it's the economy, right? There's all sorts of different issues. But to me, every single one of these stems from one major problem, and that is polarization, the two-party system, right? If we look at these two candidates, can you really look at me and tell me that either one of these candidates is just an outstanding choice for that party? I can't. I genuinely cannot, and most Americans would agree with me. If you disagree with me, that's fine. I don't care what side you're on, but most people would think that these are terrible candidates. That is a problem. I think that the person who's running your country should be liked by at least half of the country, and the current system and the current polarization is set up to make that not happen. I feel like the easier one to kind of explain polarization with is Trump, because he's really kind of the face of how polarization works in this country. When he first started off in the Republican primary, he was incredibly unpopular. I remember him polling at 4%, 5%, being like, wow, this guy is a complete idiot. Why is he still in here? And the reason is once he hit the debate stage, he had a very different strategy than everybody else. And that is, I am just going to shit on everybody because that is what gets clicks. So he didn't even talk about policy. He didn't say, hey, I have the best solution for the economy. I have the best solution for this. No, what he said is, that dude has an ugly dog wife and I don't have an ugly dog wife. And that got millions of views on the internet and people were like, wow, I do hate that guy. So maybe if I hate that guy and this guy hates that guy, maybe I like Donald Trump. That is literally what worked and what won him the Republican primary. And then he gets to the actual election and it's the exact same thing. It's like, I'm not even going to really talk too much about my policy. I'm just going to say Hillary Clinton sucks, right? And Hillary did the exact same thing with Trump. It was literally just two teams going at each other. That is a massive problem. When you have two teams, inherently, it becomes not how can I show that I'm better than the other team, but rather how can I make the other team look worse? Because fear sells better than promotion and all of these other issues. It becomes a game of demonization. And guess who catches on to that better than anybody else? The media. How many people in this country genuinely believe one of these images? It is a ton. I can't tell you how many people have been in my comment sections telling me that Trump is literally Hitler or that Kamala would have absolutely ruined the world. Guess what? We've had Trump now as a president for 6 years, 4 years the first term, 2 years now, and it has not been Hitler. Has it been good? I'm not saying that at all, but it is definitely not been Hitler. Come on. Same thing with Biden, right? He was not this evil communist man, right? But this is how the media portrays these people. There are so many people that are brainwashed into thinking that the other side is literally going to be the end of the world. It's terrible. And if we had a third party, the media would no longer be able to act like this because they can't say, oh my God, both of these other people are evil, because now you start sounding like an idiot. But when it's just one person, that fear is going to sell. The other issue with three parties is you can't villainize that other person's secondary base because your goal is to get second votes, which I'll get to a little bit later. But polarization in this country is growing, right? You can agree or disagree with this graph, right, on where Republicans or Democrats lie on the actual line. I think that this is fairly accurate. But regardless, you can see the two sides are moving apart. I've seen graphs where the right is way over here, which I think is wrong. I've seen graphs where the left is way over here. But regardless, both sides are shifting away from the center, and this is bad. It's making us not want to work together. And it also causes things like gerrymandering, because when you see the other side as evil, what are you going to do? You're going to do everything in your freaking power to make sure that they don't get seats, because if they come in, you are literally electing Hitler. That is what people think. So you feel morally justified to draw a district like this. Are you fucking kidding me, North Carolina? What the hell is that? What are we talking about right now? You have disconnected districts in some places where the district literally has another district cutting right through it. I mean, like a lot of blue states, you just have this crazy stringiness near cities like Chicago and LA. In Republican districts, it looks a little bit more clean, but that's just because Republicans are more spread out, so it can look a little bit more clean. But don't get me wrong, this is still extremely gerrymandered. And gerrymandering is another thing that would be fixed if there were multiple parties, because at the end of the day, in order to get something like a new district to pass, you're going to need 50% of the vote, which means you're going to have to work together to actually make a fair district, whereas right now, it's just the people who are in the lead can draw that district. Why does ranked choice voting matter? And why can't we have a third party right now, right? Everything is kind of stemming from, what if we just had a third party? Rah. The issue is a third party would never win, right? We had RFK. He was like the biggest third party in the last election. He was big enough that states were literally trying to get him kicked off of their ballot. Like Colorado said, you cannot legally vote for RFK. Very dangerous, in my opinion. Even if you think he's a terrible candidate, you should be allowed to vote for who you want to vote for. And then when they found out that he was dropping out of the race and endorsing Trump, people were like, no, keep him on the ballot. No, bring him back on the ballot. That way those stupid Trumpies vote for RFK instead of Trump. It's funny, but that is the proof of the spoiler effect. Essentially, if RFK were a big enough name, he could have taken a large enough chunk of Trump's base and he would have lost the election. For example, these two red bars, if you add them together, they're much bigger than this blue bar. But if there's three parties and you can only vote for one person, and a lot of people like this guy and a little bit more like this guy, and they both like each other's candidates more than this person, guess what? It doesn't matter because you're stealing each other's votes. This guy's going to win. A very famous example of this is Ross Perot, who I'm showing right here. Or an even more famous example would be sort of Abraham Lincoln, right? Sort of. He was in an election that had multiple candidates. You can see 4 candidates. He still won over 50% of the Electoral College, but he had a very different strategy than a lot of other people. The states that were tallied later at this time, people say he probably would have lost. I don't know if this is 100% true, but people say he probably would have lost those states had he not used the strategy that he used, and that was he went door to door, or like every way that he could possibly get to people's ears. He would say, don't make me your number 1 candidate, make me your number 2 candidate. That way, when people saw candidates like Stephen A. Douglas not winning many states or John Bell not winning many states, those people would be like, you know what? This Lincoln guy said, make me your second favorite, so I'm going to vote for him. And that is why some people say he ended up winning the election. Once again, I don't know how true that is, but that is something that I've heard. And it just kind of, once again, shows how spoilers can play out in an election. Now, let's go through how ranked choice voting would work, right? Before, West is going to win just because they have the most people, right? Everybody's going to vote for their location. But now, in ranked choice voting, the way it's going to go down is South has the least first place votes. So they would be eliminated from the ballot, from everybody's ballot. And now, everybody would once again vote for their top person. Since all 3 of these people's top person is still there, the only thing that changes is East. But now, East has 32 votes. Look at that. They have 17 here and 15 here. So now North would be eliminated. Bum, bum, bum. And now East wins 15, 17, plus 26. They end up winning like 56 votes or something like that. And they 58 maybe. I don't know. And they end up destroying West. Now, obviously, East is still not the best answer. So, obviously, yeah, ranked choice voting doesn't come up with the best answer here either. They have East. But it just goes to show how this works. And I'm not going to show you an example that's cherry-picked just to be perfect. I want to be honest with you guys and show you the truth behind ranked choice voting. It's not always going to give the best answer. But the biggest thing is that we're getting more people on the ballot. So, why does getting more people on the ballot improve things so much? There was a famous election in Minneapolis where they employed ranked choice voting, and I'll just let the video play.
Citizens, but it could also change the way our candidates campaign. Sure, you want to be somebody's first choice, But if you aren't, you definitely want to be their second or their third. The city of Minneapolis has been using ranked choice voting for almost 9 years, and the city clerk says he's seen a noticeable shift in campaigns.
No one wanted to potentially lose the second or third choice voters from their competitors. And so the tone and rhetoric of the campaign was much more focused on policy and issues and priorities, what you would do as mayor, and less about the traditional more attack ads against.
Do you hear that? People are not as worried about attacking their candidates. They're worried about working together and talking about the policies, purely because they started employing ranked choice voting. And it gets crazier.
Their opponents.
The rhetoric was so different that at one point in the 2013 mayoral debate, the candidates linked arms and literally sang Kumbaya.
The candidates came together after a debate, mind you, and sang Kumbaya. After a debate right now, it's literally like a UFC fight scene where you have all these guards coming in and like keeping Ted Cruz off of Donald Trump because if one of them falls over, they genuinely are old enough they might pass away. Like that is literally what we're seeing on our current debate stage. And those are people from the same freaking party. And this party came together and sang Kumbaya purely because the voting system changed. This is what America needs right now.
Refusing to insult one another out of fear of losing voters.
Fear of losing voters from insulting each other. This is what we need. Okay. Clearly, something as simple as a voting system can have a massive tone shift. So, let's just show how, give you guys one more example of how that would kind of play off, right? Very famous recent election. Mamdani, Cuomo, I don't know why I almost forgot his name, and Silva. I want you to imagine, still Mamdani is the most popular candidate, but his campaign strategy is to just attack Cuomo and Silva the whole time. Cuomo, you're such a, you've done such terrible things. I don't want to name them because my video might get taken down. And Silva, you're Republican, evil, whatever, right? And he's just attacking. And it is ranked choice voting. And these two are like, hey, you know what? Instead of attacking back, let's just keep doing what we are doing and let's kind of work together on this, right? That way, our voters, their second vote would go to us too, if this were a ranked choice voting election. And what's going to happen is if Mamdani only wins 48% of the vote, really close to 50, guess what? Maybe Cuomo is eliminated because Silva has more than him. But all of Silva's second voters are going to go to Cuomo, and these two combined just have to have 50% of the first place voters because Mamdani is attacking the other two the whole time. Once again, I know this isn't how the election played out, but if this is how the election played out, it would show you that villainizing the opposition is not going to work. And a lot of people say, oh, it's just human nature, right? It's not the system, it's just behavior. No, the systems shape behavior. Good people, right? A lot of politicians still are good people. They think that their policy is the best, and they know what it takes to win these games, so they will play evil games in bad incentive systems because that is the only way to win, and they genuinely believe that if they win, they can do more good. That is genuinely what some of them believe. Yes, some of them are absolutely corrupt, and they just want money, power, all these other things, but some of them are good people that have to play evil games in order to win in bad incentive systems, right? And if we have ranked choice voting, it's no longer how do I get people to hate the other side. It becomes how do I become likable to a broader base. That is the game of ranked choice voting. Now, why do I have a shot clock here? The shot clock symbolizes how a simple rule change can completely change a game. The NBA didn't always have a shot clock. Basketball didn't always have a shot clock. The game used to be extremely slow, and it was kind of how long can we draw this game out? And then the NBA added a shot clock, or sometimes basketball at different levels like high school, college, everything will change the time on the shot clock, and it completely changes the strategy of basketball. This shows that the system, the rules completely dictate the behavior of the team. That team is completely changing their strategy to match the rules. It's the same thing with voting. If the rules are get the most first place votes and that's all that matters, it's going to be how do I pump up my base the most, not how do I appeal to a broader audience. But if it's ranked choice voting, it is how do I appeal to a broader audience, which is what we need as Americans right now. Quick sources slide. Did I read all of these absolutely word for word? No, but these are some things that I found when I was looking and researching for this video a little bit. I do want to note, I started researching for this video at 8:45. It is now 10:04, and I've been recording for 30 minutes. So I did like barely any research for this video. Most of it was just putting these slides together. This is just me off the dome. Now, screw the sources slide. We were just talking about incentives. People and like politicians are not the only ones that follow these incentives. The media does too. And how does the media make money? They get more people to watch. And what is more entertaining? Watching a bunch of people work together and try and figure out what the best solution is, or quick 2-minute conversations where it's 5 Republicans and they bring on some liberal and just absolutely dunk on them for 2 minutes, and then you get to see an ad. Which one is going to be more entertaining? Obviously the dunking. And that is not what we need. The other thing that brings in more clicks is fear. What headline would you press? Politician comes up with great economic plan, or politician is going to kill everybody, and he says evil thing, right? Which one of these headlines are you going to click? I mean, it literally just boils down to fear gets clicks, outrage gets watch time, and media builds tribes. It builds this two-team nature. So ranked choice voting would also fix our media system. Seriously, I genuinely believe that. And as people become more divided, we start seeing more radical things, right? January 6th, as people get more divided, we are going to see more radical things. We start literally seeing the other side as enemies, right? If you genuinely believe that Trump is Hitler, you probably believe that getting rid of him is the best option. And that is fair, because getting rid of Hitler was the best option. But when that is portrayed to you all the time, which it's not true, whether you like to believe it or not, it's going to lead to taking out other people that are very much associated with him and could also be seen that way. Or people on the right trying to take out the vice president because he's trying to take away the person that you genuinely believe won that election. These are two very, very radical and very, very bad things that happen. I'm going to get a lot of hate for this slide. I do not care. If you can't admit that this is proof of radicalization and you're only going to attack one of these, you are part of the problem that I'm talking about. Okay, you can dislike this video. I do not care. But while they're disliking this video, if you are enjoying this video, please drop a like. It will help me out and counteract all those people that are going to hate me just because I'm giving an opinion online. A logical one at that. Okay. So I have been very pro ranked choice voting in this video. What are the counter arguments? As somebody who has literally debated against one of the biggest debate names about this topic, right? That is how passionate I am about this. When I heard Charlie Kirk was coming to campus, I chose to debate him on this topic because it is so important to me. I was like, what is the most important thing? Easy, ranked choice voting. That's what I debated him on for that reason. The first counter argument, it is complicated. At the end of the day, right now, all you have to do is bubble in the dot next to your favorite candidate. With ranked choice voting, what you have to do is rank those candidates. It is going to be a little bit more complicated, right? Now, I do want to limit it to 4 people on the ballot max. That way it's a little bit less complicated. You do have to rank everybody. Otherwise, it completely eliminates the point of the system if you can only rank candidates that you care about. But if you have 4 people on the ballot, you could have the same bubble system where you don't have to put like a 1 next to somebody, a 2 next to somebody, and it's like, oh my God, what if I put 2 1s on accident? Is my whole ballot thrown out? Yeah, you won't have that. Instead, what you can have is 24 bubbles that have every possible order of ranking, and you just bubble next to the ranking that you like the best. Still not as confusing. On top of that, people rank things all the time. If I asked you what are your 3 favorite fast food restaurants, you could boom, 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 right off your bat. If I tell you to rate something out of 10, you can do this. Ranking things is part of our nature, and saying that people won't be able to rank like 4 candidates for our president, that's crazy to me. If it's all over the news as much as it is today, which it will be, you are going to be able to have an opinion on just 4 candidates. You just are. One other thing I want to note is this is just a dog shit list. Taco Bell, top of S tier. McDonald's in S tier. Absolutely crazy. Panera Bread in A tier. You know what? I get it. I just wouldn't put it there. Burger King in B, that it needs to go way lower. Does he have anything just super low that shouldn't be higher? I've heard Cookout is really good. Yeah. This is a wild list, by the way. Wild. Shake Shack's too low. I'd say Shake Shack is too low. Everything else, I mean, I can see it. I just don't see how you could possibly have Shake Shack that low. Besides the point. Okay. Another negative is it takes longer to tally, right? Oh my gosh. Right now, all we have to do is count everybody's ballot as one person. Now what we have to do is we have to rank them all, figure out who's the least votes, remove that person, then give their votes to all the other people, recount the vote, and then ideally the way this works is first it works at the electoral college level. Anybody who doesn't have any electoral college votes is eliminated. Then you retally every single state, you see if that changes anything, and then you once again remove the next person from the electoral college. It would be complicated. It would take a while. It would take several countings of the vote, even though you only have to vote one time. And yeah, this is fair, right? It's going to take us longer to find the winner. But guess what? I do not give a single shit. I will take the voting system taking longer to calculate over the civil war that this country is about to approach. Genuinely. This is the worst argument, in my opinion. What you're arguing for right now is perfection, which I'll get to in a moment. Let me just get to that. The next argument is that ranked choice voting is not perfect, which you're right. I've shown that example earlier where ranked choice voting didn't win. It didn't bring the best spot, which is that spot in the middle. I believe it was north, right? Ranked choice voting is not perfect. And I was just talking about that a slide before, right? It's going to take longer to tally. But if you are shooting for perfection and you're going to shut this down because it's not perfect, that is so stupid to me. What you need to think is what is better, ranked choice voting or our current system. A lot of policy right now will get shut down because it is not perfect. So this is my genuine reaction every time somebody says something like this. I don't give a single crap. Who cares if it's not perfect? That is not what matters. What matters is it better than our current system? And the other thing is then people start looking at other voting methods which are objectively dramatically worse than ranked choice voting because they're better reflections of the voters' true intentions, right? You have more power. For example, if you could rank every candidate based on how much you like them from 1 to 10. The issue with these is the voter can lie and they can do things that they don't truly believe on the ballot to try and boost the candidate that is their favorite to win. And when a lot of people are lying, that is how you get very radical candidates to win. It's just a terrible system. Trust me, ranked choice voting is the best. I know it's not perfect. It's going to have problems, and sometimes it's going to elect maybe the country's second best option instead of the best. But the second best option is significantly better than right now we are getting like the 180th best option, if even that. I seriously think that if ranked choice voting were implemented, we would be choosing between 4 of this country's 10 best candidates for president. And that is substantially better than what we're seeing today, even if their viewpoints are still very different from each other. I would much rather have somebody who's on the opposite side of the spectrum from me that is elected via ranked choice voting and is actually thinking about policy and has this mindset of policy the entire time versus somebody that is from the party that I like a little bit more today in our current voting system. Because I genuinely think that this voting system just breeds dog shit. Seriously. My biggest conclusion, if you are somebody who goes on TikTok and you comment hateful messages to somebody who has an opinion that slightly differs from your party, you are part of the problem. But I don't really blame you as much as I blame the system. But that being said, you can still fix yourself. If you see comments in this comment section that are just attacking either side, that is not the point of this video. The entire point of this video is to come up with a solution to bring us together, and you are completely missing the point if that is you. Overall, if you have disagreements with ranked choice voting, I would love to debate you on them. I could debate this with literally anybody on planet Earth, and I can pretty much guarantee I would win because there's just no logical argument against it, in my opinion. I'm yet to hear one that I enjoy. So if you want to debate this, comment, and I will find a way to get in contact with you and debate you on one of my Friday lives. I would love that. Overall, I have 4 life goals. This is something I've talked about pretty often, and getting ranked choice voting implemented in the United States is one of them. And the reason it is one is because I genuinely believe that this is the thing that is going to prevent this country from ceasing to exist about 80 years from now, because I think that's the path that we're heading on right now. And a simple solution, just one policy change, could fix that. And I'm a strong believer of that. Overall, I love you guys. I hope this was educational. My next video is going to be on all the different, well, not my next video, but my next video in this format is going to be on all the different voting formats and why ranked choice voting is the best.